Section 194 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, that is talks about the AFRA. Subsection 1 of Section 194 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, that is captioned with the AFRA, it provides when two or more persons by fighting in a public place disturb the public peace, they are said to commit an AFRA. Subsection 2 provides whoever commits an AFRA shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 1 month or with fine which may extend to 1000 rupees or with both. Section 194 subsection 1 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita corresponds to section 159 of the Indian Penal Code, and section 194 subsection 2 of Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita corresponds to section 160 of the Indian Penal Code. A legislative change can be noticed here. That amount of fine has been increased from rupees 100 to rupees 1000 under section 194 subsection 2 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. The word AFRA is derived from the French word effrayer, which means to terrify. In law, it means a public offense to the terror of the people. The gist of the offense lies in the terror it is likely to cause to the public. According to Blackstone, a fighting between two or more persons in a public place to the terror of His Majesty's subject is AFRA in English law. Ingredients of the AFRA is two or more persons must fight. Number 2, they must fight in a public place. And 3, by their fighting, they must disturb the public peace. It is to be remembered here that AFRA cannot take place on a private land. It must be always a public place. That is, on a private place, the offense of AFRA cannot take place. Two or more persons. The offense of an AFRA requires at least 2 persons. The number may be more. Fighting in public place. To constitute an AFRA, fighting must take place in a public place. Public place is a place where the public go, no matter whether they have a right to go or not. If the public resort to a place without let or hindrance, it is a public place. Though strictly speaking, they may be trespassing. Whether a place is a public or not does not necessarily depend on the right of public to go to the place. Though, of course, a place to which the public can go as of right must be deemed to be public place. The place where the public are in the habit of going is deemed to be a public for the purpose of this offense. For instance, a railway platform, a theatre hall, an omnibus, a public urinal, a good yard of railway station, a market, a public ferry, and passenger trains are all public places. Many shows are exhibited to the public on private property, yet they are frequented by the public. They are public places because people go there. A public garden is not a public place at all hours, but it is a public when open to the public. Likewise, a court of law, a hospital, a church, a mosque, or a temple are all public places. During the hours, public have access to them. Therefore, the nature of place being private or public varies from time to time. The court has to consider whether the place in question was at the time a place where the public undoubtedly were, and after the next requirement is some fight at public place is necessary to constitute the offense. Mere exchange of abusive, threatening, or hard word, however violent, without exchange of blows does not amount to fight. The fighting means a quarrel accompanied by use of a little force. It connotes a contest of or struggle for mastery. When one side is aggressive and the other is passive, there is no fight. When the members of one party beat the member of another party, and the latter do not retaliate, there is no fighting and therefore no affray. The Allahabad University Union decides to celebrate its annual function and hires a private hall for the purpose. The entry is through tickets, which are distributed free of cost to members, friends, and others whom the organizer deem worthy of some tickets are also given to the Vice Chancellor to be distributed at his discretion. Ticket could not be obtained from any other channel. About 20 persons constituting a dance party gave the show in the hall. A number of youth, including the appellant, created disturbances at the dance. Fight developed and some damage was done. They were charged with others with fighting and making an affray in the hall. The charge of affray is sustainable because the private hall was converted into a public place, and by fighting in the hall they have disturbed the public peace. Then the next requirement is disturbance of the public peace. In order to constitute the offense of an affray, there must not only be fighting in a public place, but such fighting must cause a general alarm and disturbance. Merely causing a public inconvenience is not enough. The familiar example, according to Hari Singh Gaur, is a drunken brawl in the public street where two or more persons shouts at and pull about one another. It is imperative to make a distinction between affray and riot. The two differ, that is, affray and riot differ from each other in the respect of that in case of an affray cannot be committed in a private place, whereas a riot may take place anywhere, that is, both at a public and private place. Next, an affray can be committed by two or more persons, whereas a riot can be committed by at least five persons. Next, rioters are those who first constitute an unlawful assembly. An affray need not be so. Distinction between affray and assault. The two are different in the following ways. An affray must be committed in a public place. An assault may take place anywhere. An assault may be committed by one or more persons, but an affray involves a minimum two persons. In assault, common object is not necessary, whereas it is necessary in case of an affray. Affray is regarded as an offense against the public peace. An assault is an offense against the person of an individual. An affray is nothing more than an assault committed in a public place and in a conspicuous manner, and it is so called because it makes men afraid. In assault, there is no actual fight or use of force. Only gesture of preparation are used so as to cause a person present to apprehend that criminal force is about to be used. Assault is punishable under section 131 Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita with imprisonment for 3 months or fine up to rupees 1000 or with both, whereas affray is punishable under section 194 subsection 2 Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita with imprisonment for 1 month or with fine up to rupees 1000 or with both. Section 195 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, that is assaulting or obstructing public servant when suppressing riot, etc. Subsection 1 of section 195 provides whoever assaults or obstructs any public servant or uses criminal force on any public servant in the discharge of his duty as such public servant in endeavoring to disperse an unlawful assembly or to suppress a riot or shall be punished with imprisonment. To suppress a riot or affray shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 3 years or with fine which shall not be less than 25,000 rupees, or with both. Subsection 2 provides, whoever threatens to assault or attempts to obstruct any public servant, or there threatens or attempts to use criminal force to any public servant in the discharge of his duty as such public servant in endeavoring to punish any of this unlawful assembly or description of riot or affray which may extend to 1 year or with fine or with both. Legislative changes. BNS has divided this offence into two parts and includes under 195 subsection 1 and 195 subsection 2. 195 subsection 1 of BNS deals with situation where the offender actually assaults or obstructs a public servant or uses criminal force on a public servant when such public servant is endeavoring to disperse an unlawful assembly or suppress a riot or a affray. Section 195 subsection 1 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita provides punishment of imprisonment up to 3 years similar to old law, whereas now it also prescribes a minimum fine of Rs 25,000. Section 195 subsection 2 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita deals with the situation where the offender threatens to assault or attempt to obstruct a public servant or threatens or attempts to use criminal force on a public servant when such public servant is endeavoring to disperse an unlawful assembly or suppress a riot or affray. Section 195 subsection 2 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita provides punishment of imprisonment up to 1 year or with both. Section 195 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita punishes persons who assault or obstruct any public servant endeavoring to disperse an unlawful assembly. It is intended to prevent the use of force on a public servant in order to prevent him from discharging his duties. The following are essential of this section. There must exist an unlawful assembly. Number 2, an endeavor to disperse such assembly is made. Number 3, the person who endeavors to disperse must be a public servant. Number 4, he must so endeavor in the discharge of his duties as a public servant. 5th, the accused must do following acts against such public servant. Number 1, the assault or obstruct a public servant or use of criminal force on a public servant. Next, section 195 subsection 2 threatens to assault or attempts to obstruct a public servant or threatens or attempts to use criminal force on public servant. Section 196 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita that promoting enmity between different groups on ground of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, etc., and doing acts prejudicial to maintenance of harmony, that is subsection 1 of section 196 provides, that is, whoever by words, either spoken or written, or by sign or by visible representation, or through electronic communication or otherwise, promotes or attempts to promote on grounds of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, caste, or community, or any other ground whatsoever, disharmony or feeling of enmity, hatred, or ill will between different religious, racial, language, or regional group, or caste, or communities, or B, commits any act which is prejudicial to the maintenance of harmony between different religious, racial, language, regional group, or caste or communities, and which disturb or is likely to disturb the public tranquility, or C, organizes any exercise, movement, drill, or other similar activity intending that the participants in such activity shall use or be trained to use criminal force or violence, or knowing it to be likely that the participants in such activity will use or be trained to use criminal force or violence, or participate in such activity intending to use or be trained to use criminal force or violence, or knowing it to be likely that the participants in such activity will use or be trained to use criminal force or violence against any religious, racial, language, or regional group, or caste or community, and such activity for any reason whatsoever causes or is likely to cause fear or alarm or a feeling of insecurity amongst members of such religious, racial, language, or regional group or caste or community shall be punished with imprisonment which may extend to 3 years or with fine or with both. Subsection 2 further provides whoever commits an offense is specified in subsection 1 in any place of worship or in any assembly engaged in the performance of religious worship or religious ceremonies shall be punished with imprisonment which may extend to 5 years and shall also be liable to fine. Section 196 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita corresponds to Section 153 of Indian Penal Code. A legislative change has taken place under Section 196, subsection 1A of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, that is, electronic communication has been added as one of the modes of spreading disharmony, etc.